Hello and welcome to the Great British Mickey Waffle. I'm Claire and it's the beginning of February 2022 and we've got a great show for you today. So I've been joined by some friends. Unfortunately, Peter and Jill aren't with us this month. They're off gallivanting somewhere in the north of England, having a lovely time. But I do have John. How are you, John?
I'm very well, Claire, and actually, I'm quite envious. Actually, Peter and Jill had cancelled their trip to Florida to go for a trip to the northwest of England, but they'd be quite glad to know that Florida is equally as cold as the northwest of England.
It's probably colder than
I know at present, but I'm just thinking how lucky they were to have cancelled because actually,
yeah.
I think on their one of their last trips across to Walt Disney World, they endured that experience of was it 2010 when they went and went for Christmas and it was extremely cold then. So they would have had the same again. So maybe they made
lucky escape. Maybe
they made the right decision and they're going later in this year anyway. So there we go.
Yeah.
So does that watch out if you go in November?
Take your coat.
Yeah.
And in case you haven't heard them chuckling away, we've also got Ben and Becca. How are you guys? You all right?
Yeah, we're all right.
Yeah, very well. How are you, Claire?
You don't sound convinced, Becca.
No, they didn't. It's
resigned, in fact.
I'm a little bit tired tonight, that's all.
We've got over the January and Christmas. Come on, it's February. The nights are getting lighter. A bit of positivity. Let's start.
I know. I actually came home in the daylight the other day.
Yeah.
Which is most unusual.
Did you finish like 11 o'clock? Did you finish like 11 in the morning? As soon as you hit the afternoon, it's dark.
It does kind of feel like that. So
yeah,
it's getting better.
But we're 1 month. We're 1 month through 2022. That means we're all 1 month closer to our next Disney trip.
That is very true indeed.
That's a nice way of thinking of it, Ben. I think that's
With everything going on in the world, you've got to grab any bit of positivity when you can.
This is it. We've got to be positive. That's what we do here at the Great British Mickey Waffle. We do positivity.
That's
what we do best. Waffling, positive waffling. That's kind of when someone describes. How do you describe the show? Positive waffling.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
I'll leave our listeners to fill in the other blanks there. You know, it's just it's so tempting.
Pause. It's like blankety blank.
This month's competition, positive blank.
That's an idea for next month's show. We can make a series of this.
We probably could.
That'd be so bad. Can you imagine?
Blankety waffle.
This sounds like a game we should do on the Shares of Waffle.
It definitely does not sound like
No.
a game.
Is this a replacement for our carousel of questions?
Maybe so. Oh gosh. I think we could get ourselves into all sorts of trouble, John.
Yeah, Claire, that's exactly what I'm thinking. It's just a whole lot of trouble. That's all.
All you have to do is remember to keep it PG rating.
Well, Claire, John, you're both still on the naughty step from last month, but John's got slightly better.
Oh, I've never leave the naughty step, Ben. I'm getting quite comfortable.
John's doing well, because how are our New Year's resolutions going?
Swimmingly. Mine
How many Marvel films have you watched?
Movie, haven't you?
I've been to see one Marvel movie, and I've also managed to binge watch the whole of season 3 of Afterlife, which doesn't count as a Marvel movie, unfortunately, but it was rather good. And I've got to say, it was well worth putting the time and effort into watching that. So this week I have lined up another couple of Marvel films, just because I'm playing catch up already. But hey, I went to the cinema and I went to see Spider-Man, and it was rather good. So it set the scene, it set the tone. So I'm moving in the right direction.
You are. You've had a month in, and you've done one movie, and therefore you are on track.
Yeah.
To at least do 12 in 2022, one a month. Only about 2 years. 2 years later, you'll get through all of them.
How many are there?
There's at least 23, maybe.
23. Yeah. You need to up it a little bit then.
Maybe
2 a month.
I think so too.
2 a month.
Guy at the gym keeps saying that as well. You know, it's. It's when you hit the wall, New Year's resolutions at the gym, isn't it? And they say, you need to up it a bit there. So when you've been once in the month of January.
Well, more than you did in December.
Exactly.
Just make sure it's the gin that you're drinking, not going to the gym. I think that's what it is, isn't it?
Oh, there's a thought. Yeah.
Yes.
A thought.
If you say it quick enough, it sounds the same.
It certainly does. How are your New Year's resolutions going, Ben and Becca?
I can't remember what mine was. It's been that long. Actually, I do. No, I do.
The universe gets to find out about my progress week on week on the Wafflers Wednesday. And yet these guys get away with it scot-free. That's it.
But no, it's the next trip to Walt Disney World. I'm going to be going on Rock and Roller Coaster.
So you can't really do that until you actually get there.
No, not yet been to a Disney park in 2022, but when we do.
That's the same with me. I can't do mine until I'm actually there. So, but I'm hoping I'll be able to do 2020, 2021 and 2022 all in 5 days. Because Fantasmic is coming back.
That sounds good to me.
I might even, then just obliterate the memory of 2020 and 2021 completely and move on. But take the opportunity, as we said we would. 2022 is the year of opportunities, and hopefully I'll be able to go and see Fantasmic while I'm there. Maybe.
I can't wait to hear.
You will, Claire.
Hear what you think of it.
Okay.
I will get people to actually take you there and make you sit and watch it.
Oh, we have friends on the show that will make sure that...
Yeah, you're not allowed to get back on the plane until you've seen it. So that's basically it.
Oh, it's instead of doing your passenger locator form on the way home, it's like, Sim Fantasmic.
Have you seen Fantasmic? Yes or no?
No, back you go.
I really want to see it. I think everyone says it's amazing. It's just one of those things that's I've bypassed, so it will happen.
And you'll be the first waffler to see the new version as well.
You will.
I won't know it's new because I've not seen the old version.
You can come back home and watch the old one on YouTube.
Yeah. That's it. Maybe that's the answer. I'll just watch the old one when I get back.
Can I maybe suggest something, guys? Because actually, I've picked up on an awful lot because things certainly in the UK have changed. Certainly, there seems to be, like we started the show, there's a greater positivity about looking towards getting to Walt Disney World. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, but that whole theme about thinking about your holidays for the summer all of a sudden seem to be at the forefront of everyone's mind. You guys have all got plans for this year, but all of a sudden have become very aware. We've had new people joining us on the podcast. We've got new people joining us on the Wednesday shows, and we've got people who actually start to follow us on our socials who are seemingly interested in what we're waffling about, but equally it appears as if they've got holidays to plan, and it seems to be that real uplift which we haven't been able, no one's been able to pick up on for now 2 years. It's been such a sorrowful state of cancelled holidays, and yet we've suddenly got people who have got flights booked, or they got money in the bank where they're going to go and book those flights. So maybe just to start February off, is it maybe an idea that we start off on that sort of that planning footing? Where do you start? Because I know Ben and Becca, you've been recently. Things are a little different than they have been in the past. I'm still old school. I still go on the greatest bit of planning advice being take a strip plug and a travel
Sorry.
Strip plug. Then you can recharge.
That is not what I thought.
Get your ears sorted. You did that to me like
I think that's called an extension lead.
It's a strip plug. Goodness. Oh, it is. It's a northern thing, guys. Come on.
Doesn't everything come on? You don't need one anymore, John. They all come on USB. There's enough outlets in Disney hotels now that with all the vlogging equipment and cameras, phones and stuff we took with us in November.
Doesn't the mixed voltage cause you an issue?
No, it's been a godsend over the years. Doesn't matter how many items you've got to recharge, it does the job.
Sounds like a fire hazard to me.
Yeah,
Fire pillar in Orlando.
Comes with a warning, a health and safety warning. We've done that before, but we had issues with the voltage. Obviously, we took a cheap one, John. We took a cheap strip plug.
The thing is, you can now get on Amazon ones that just plug into one. You've got.
So you're trying not to laugh as you said the word strip plug. You're trying not to laugh.
That's because with your accent, it sounds like something else, John. It doesn't sound like strip.
I dread to think. So I'm going to leave our very posh listeners from the south to sort out my accent from the north. I haven't got a clue. You'll have to text me and tell me what it sounds like. If you do that as you said. But yeah, for anyone from the US who's wondering what on earth I'm talking about, because they tend to just chuck every single electric thing into like one of them blocks that you put in the wall, and they'll just have it.
Like
14 cables that come out of one outlet.
Yeah.
And they know it's safe for them. So
voltage at that low. Yeah. Anyway,
who knows?
Moving on.
Who knows?
That's another tip of just when you're taking stuff across from the UK to it's the voltage to think about. Actually, can you take stuff and having the right adapter?
Yeah. Don't take hairdryer. It's not going to work.
No. Well, if it does, it won't do very well.
Or it might blow up.
Look what happened.
Yeah, tell you what, who let Claire out? Who let Claire out for February? That's it.
Claire's been drinking all the way through January to cope with it.
She's not been doing dry January.
I haven't been out. This is my only outlet.
Anyway, all I was saying, right, that was just my littlest, most successful little tip of planning of all time. But I actually think for this month, I think we should let's dip in to some people's part of their planning, because actually everyone's going to be at a completely different place. Everyone's going to be at a completely different budget, and everyone's going to be at a completely different starting point. So let's go back, and I think Claire and I have had this conversation before, because my starting point is generally with flights. Claire, you said you generally start with Villa, and then the flight kind of comes after that. I tend to go the other way. Ben and Becca, you're in a completely different position, because obviously with DVC, you're actually got the fact that you know that you've got somewhere to stay when you get there.
Yeah, we've got to just book 11 months, same when the flights are out, that we book and we know we've got a room at our home resort.
Yeah, so for us, it's making sure that holidays booked with work.
Yeah.
Before we book anything.
Yeah, get your annual leave sorted. Also, get travel insurance before you're willing to part with any money. And the other thing, make sure you get your Esters. Biggest thing out of them all. Because if something does go wrong, you don't want to do it at the day of the trip, which we've had to do before.
We have had to do that before. Our first trip.
Yeah, sorry, I've just had a flashback. I had a conversation with my brother last week. And I've got a family member who shall remain nameless, just because I don't want to shame my mother. But she's planning on a trip to the US, and has that opinion that she can just rock up on the day. I think she's doing a cruise or something like that. She'll be able to do the Esther on the boat because the Wi-Fi is good and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, oh my word, just don't even let me go there. So I haven't even had the conversation. I've left my brother to have the conversation, because she knows that I gave her the link, which is the official link through the US government website, not the little link that appears at the top of Google, which charges you a whole lot of money more. Be very careful on what you click. There are dodgy people out there that will gladly charge you £20 extra for something that's going to only cost you $15. It's dead easy. It's not a problem. You just put in the answers and you tell the truth. Yeah. An Esther is something that you need to get into the US. If you do have any issues, if there is something that is in your past that you perhaps are unsure about, then be honest about it and then go down the route of seeking a visa, because actually the worst thing you can have is being turned around at immigration, and that's not what you spend all the money on.
Or if you make a mistake on the form, give yourself enough time, because the things you make a mistake on the form, you can't reapply for it straight away. You have to apply for a visa, which can take, especially at the minute, about 6 months.
And I
because
think,
everything's paused, everything's stopped.
That there's lots of guidance online about interpretation of the questions. They are worded in a specific way, and I think if you are confident you can answer no to all of them, then the ESTA in theory should be agreed straight away. But if you're in any way concerned, you can contact the embassy and have a conversation with them about that. Often they'll just say, well, answer it, and then if you need to get a visa, get a visa. The visa process, I believe, is not straightforward in terms of it costs you money. There's forms you have to do. There's bits of paperwork you have to get together. But when you get all that together and you get your appointment to go to London, or if you're willing to fly to Belfast if they're doing it, it doesn't take very long when you're there. But it's a case of the worst case scenario is to answer no just to get the ESTA agreed, and then you arrive at immigration when you get there and they look at your history and you turn around, you're then on a no-fly list or you're blacklisted in terms of the states. So I'm not trying to scare anybody, but being honest in terms of the situation is really important because it could affect you and your future.
Yeah. And it's a loss of money. When you think if you've spent several £1,000s on a trip, all it costs is $14. No, and all it costs is $14 for an ESTA.
Yeah.
To at least start the process and do it before you. Same with travel insurance. They'd be like, okay, book travel insurance, book ESTA,
any cash,
and the ESTA lasts for 2 years. So apply it for whenever you're planning your trip.
The day you book, you might as well. You're not going to get any extra value out of it. Waiting until the day before you leave, thinking, oh well, we might go again in like 18 months' time, so we can maybe use the same ESTA twice.
Oh my goodness!
It's not worth it.
Mad time.
No, I couldn't do that.
It's far too stressful.
Yeah.
We had to do that for our honeymoon because my passport wasn't valid until the day before we travelled because it was in my married name.
Whoa,
yeah, that's always the one thing that is difficult.
I wouldn't recommend it.
You're changing your surname for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It can be a bit tricky, but
and it was 2 days before our. Was it? Yeah, 3 days before our honeymoon. There was me on the laptop typing it all in and just keep the fingers crossed.
I was going to say, we were lucky. It did go through the night before
going
my
on your own,
passport was valid. Yeah.
It's all right. 2 weeks in Walt Disney
everything
World.
was fine.
Becca was thinking the same. He's gone for 2 weeks to Walt Disney World. I'm okay.
No, I'd rather be in Walt Disney World with him.
If we talk about accommodation, flights, ESTAs, travel insurance, I think the other big thing that we've talked about a few times, but probably not in the current situation, is transport. So that bit from when you arrive in whichever airport you're going to arrive in. So for some people that will be MCO, and in terms of Orlando International. For some people like me, I quite like flying into Tampa. It is a hour drive away, but I think in terms of airports, it's my favourite airport other than probably Dubai International. It's probably my favourite airport in the world. Some people like John like going into Miami. And then I think it depends if you're going to hire a car.
Don't quote me on that, Claire. I don't particularly like Miami, but if it's the cheapest place to
John
go
likes
I'll take
airport
it.
that's cheap.
Yeah.
But I think there's there's different airports and you've got indirect and direct flights. But certainly TUI now, in terms of their flights for later this year, are going into Melbourne rather than Sanford or MCO, which is that's a new airport for the UK guests. And is it going to be a shed? Yes, probably. But is it going to be quick? Probably. Compared to Orlando International, which can get really, really busy. But
it's interesting with MCO have now got that third terminal C, which has only just recently reopened. So when that gets used to different flights, when flights get back to the frequency they were a few years ago, are we going to see the benefit of that?
It's going to be really helpful. Yeah. So when you've got all your bags and you've made it up the escalator, and you're thinking about your transport to your onward destination, so whether that's grabbing a car to drive to a villa, or people who are going into Walt Disney World, previously would have been able to get the Magical Express.
Yeah.
Now I've never done it because we've always had a car. But Ben and Becca, I know that you've been thinking about this in terms of your next trip, haven't you?
Yeah, because we always got the Magical Express.
We loved it. It was brilliant. It was so simple, easy to do. Once you booked your trip, you just fill in a form online. You just say where your flight number is, and you just rock up. go to the was it Terminal B, I think?
Yes.
Go on the same floor with buses, go and just check in, and within 5-10 minutes you're usually on the bus, and within half an hour you're out at your resort.
Is it that quick? Was
It's
it really
sometimes-
that quick?
Sometimes.
That's the quickest we've had.
Sometimes you can be
Okay.
waiting on the bus for half an hour or so while it fills up if you're the first one on it.
Yeah, and it depends, because some buses will go to 2 or 3 or 4 other resorts, and it depends on your timing.
Okay.
Once you've got there, it is potluck, or it was potluck. So it's not as simple and easy as.
So there's not a separate bus there wasn't a separate bus for each resort. They sort of clumped together.
No, it was like
No.
you'd have like the Grand
like
and
Port Leeds, Riverside
Polynesian
and French Quarter would be together. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So they sort of zone them.
Yeah, you
But
have like the
that's
Animal
not an
Kingdom
option
area.
now, is it?
No, it's not. It's been replaced. So Disney have decided we don't want to do this anymore. Which, funny enough, it was always operated by Mears, and now it's Mears Connect. So Disney have taken sort of any responsibility over it and handed it over to Mears Connect, which unfortunately isn't included in the price of what your Disney trip was before. So Mears Connect for one way is $16 per adult, but a round trip for $32, which isn't bad. Especially if there's a large group of you know that you prepaid, you've got it, and it's the same service as the Magical Express. So you turn up,
Okay.
You scan with a QR code. That once you've registered, you've got a QR code. You scan it, and it tells you what lane to go in, and then you're in that lane, and then you get on that bus, and then it will take you to your resort. They say you won't be waiting longer than 20 minutes in line. Until getting on the bus, and then it's within an hour you'll be at your resort.
That's still
So-
fairly good
so
going. I
that's-
mean, I've
that's
known
still-
it take that long to pick up a hire car, so
Yeah,
and then you've got to negotiate your way out of Orlando International.
they do
round the
have an
I
express service, as you can see on here, which is the round trip, which is
Wow.
$250, which is for a private.
So that's a private
That's
shuttle.
a lot of money.
That's private shuttle, which,
That's
funny
a lot
enough,
private.
I think that was the same price as Disney's minivans that they use for the airport.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah,
So
that's
$250 for that.
yeah.
So again, and I know this comes across as sort of trying to cut costs, but as a family, you're then in the realms of looking towards Uber and Lyft as an alternative as well, because it's comparable when you're traveling as a family of 4, and you're actually even in a larger Uber ride.
Yeah.
You're still likely to be picking up, even at peak time, a lift from the airport in towards the 192 at probably a cheaper rate than that, which is a bit sad, really, because you look at how simple sort of Disney Express was, but now we're talking about how it just adds a little question mark for me, and it adds a little question mark for somebody who's never got the Disney Express, because I've always gone for the car option. But we're at a time where now that Disney resorts are charging per night for cars,
on top of the price of car hire at the minute, the average 2-week price for summer 2022 is £1,500.
Yeah, and that really does put a few question marks, certainly in my mind, as to where it's going. I know fine well, but the change in car hire prices have been well documented, sort of particularly across the whole of the US, simply because of when the economic downturn of the closure of all of these places happened. They were all told to sell the cars in order to try and liquidate cash. They're now in a position they've paid a whole lot of money for new cars that needs paying for, and actually they've got bills to pay, just like everybody does in recovery. But it's a massive upturn for a tourist, and so I think we all need to just be a little bit more careful. And I'm just aware that we're trying to. I hope we're not talking anybody out of planning a trip, because all of this is really simple to do. You just have to just look at what is best for you, what is best for your family, and what's best for the party that you're going with. The bus, I think, if you're staying on resort, I just think it looks really simple. Just pay the money, and then you can get straight to resort. You don't even have to pay.
What's interesting, you don't have to pre-book it either.
Yeah.
So you can decide when you get there.
When you get there, there's now a way of booking it. You scan it. All you do is contactless. You do it on your phone. So there's a QR code when you're there to scan. You do it. You pay through it on your phone, and then you can just go and join your queue. So if you've forgotten to book it,
try and book an Uber or a Lyft. Find there's a 2-hour wait, or it's going to cost you $70
or search pricing's a lot.
Yeah.
And then go. Well, actually, we'll just jump on the bus and sort it out when you get there.
Yeah,
I like that option. I think that makes it more flexible.
We've priced up an Uber for our next trip, and for us in an Uber XL to get from MCO to Universal, it's $40.
Yeah,
and that was on its surge pricing at the time. So we thought, you know what, for us, just to get there within 20 minutes than to wait an hour, that's what we're going to try this year and see what we'll report back and see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's good to be able to report back and give real life experience of these things. As I say, we haven't, neither John or I have done the bus because we're too busy picking out our car from the row.
We're too focused on getting to our hotel while you're still looking at the cars.
Car and find the new version and the one that's going to stand out in the car park and the one that's got that hasn't got the broken air conditioning and stuff.
So we've never hired a car before, so.
And I think that's
I really would struggle with that
because there's only two of us. It's so weird.
It makes sense for you guys though, and I think once you get, I think this is the bit I struggle with at the moment, and I think Claire, you're about to say the same thing. Once you've been in a car and you actually pick your car up from the airport, you've got that complete freedom for the whole holiday.
Totally.
It's one thing that, even now I'm looking, I really couldn't justify having a car sitting in a Disney hotel car park for 5-10 days because
that's exactly what I'm going to do in May.
Yeah, but you're different. You're going yourself though, and you're only going for 5 days.
I'm going for 5 days. I'm having a car. It's going to sit in the car park, but I can see from your perspective, Claire, because actually you're going on your own. I think from a safety point of view, that is a far better way of doing something that is actually, how it works, how to deal with the upsell at the counter at MCO. I just bypass the counter. That would be actually. Do you know what, John? That's probably a really useful thing to say. Is that certainly for most of the big car hire companies, places certainly Avis, Alamo. I think even Hertz and Dollar. If you sign up for their, their membership, and it is generally free, often you get your spouse or partner as a free second driver, which is important. And then you also are able to do the bypass the counter option at the airport, which means you print out your documentation beforehand. At home, and you take it with you, and you literally walk to the garage and pick your car and then drive out. So nobody's trying to flog you anything, which I think is one of those things that sometimes turns people off car hire. Back in the 90s and the 2000s, people were going and then being fleeced for $300, $400, $500 at the desk, where they were trying to upsell insurance and your sat nav and all of this stuff that you don't need, because actually, if you bought the correct package at the beginning, it's completely unnecessary.
If you do end up at the desk, the answer simply is, no, I don't need that. I listened to the Great British Mickey Waffle, and they said, no, I don't need the extra driver. I don't need the extra this. I don't need the insurance for travelling somewhere out of state.
I don't need a Sun Pass. I don't need all of that stuff that they try and sell. But I think if you can do the bypass and go straight to the garage, I
do take the Sun Pass, Claire. Just don't say
I wing it. I wing it and hope I don't get caught. No, I don't.
Yeah, but I do, because if you're coming out of Miami, Miami is full of automated tolls.
Yeah. No,
so coming out of Miami is important. I think from MCO, there is definitely options that you can avoid the toll roads anywhere in Orlando. But anyway. And again, can I just put a proviso in for this, because actually you need to find what's best for you. And I think that's the thing. I do it different from Claire. Claire does it different from me, and we both do it different from Ben and Becca. But overall, we find a way of trying to get there that suits us best. you know, and I think that's the thing that you need to understand. If you're the type of person that packs, 4 cases per person, you're going to need a big car.
Yeah.
Or you're going to need a big Uber, or you're going to need a big bus. You might just have a bus that takes you and your family because it will take all of your luggage.
Do you know, this is so funny. Oh, you're going to laugh at this so much, John. When I go in May, it's just me. I've got an intermediate SUV.
Yeah, it's got to be done.
How much are you bringing back?
Shopping.
Yeah.
5 days. I'm just going to shop. No, it's.
There'll be nothing left in Publix.
Do you know what? Part of it for me is about visibility as well, because if you're driving, the roads are bigger. If you think like the I4 is like 4 or 5 lanes each direction.
Yeah.
I'm slightly vertically challenged. I'm not a tall person, and therefore sitting in one of the saloons or something that's low to the ground, often I can't see. And some of the cars are massive. You come up against the hubcaps of a Suburban, you can't see what's going on. So I tend to go for the SUV option, or certainly if we're all there, we get a 7-seater minivan so that we can take friends in the back and stuff. So, but I think. It has got to be the right choice for you, and you're right that for me in May, the safety aspect of me having a car and being able to drive where I want to drive and not be reliant on Ubers, Lyfts, friends, people, whoever, was important to me, and that might be slightly different if I wasn't going on my own. So
yeah.
I really appreciate that, Claire, and I think that's maybe something that a lot of people need to take on board, because it's it's different for everyone, and I think for you, it's the right way of doing it, and that's somebody who's been to Walt Disney World previously has an idea of what's across there. If you're going for the very, very first time, and you're in any way sort of put off by the whole experience of picking a car up, it is not the most difficult thing. It's the same as going to Manchester Airport. It's the same as going to an airport in Europe. In some respects, it's a little easier because there's no language barrier. You just keep your wits about you. You know that you've come off a long flight. You make sure that on the flight, you just make sure you keep off the beer. You make sure you're hydrated. And you also know where you're going, and I think that's another one to just point out is get yourself a paper map if you have to, and just try and plan out exactly how you're going to get it.
Do you know what? You use Google Maps before you go and visualise. Back in 2020, we were going to hire a car if that trip had happened, and I would spend time. There's YouTube videos that actually map where people drive from MCO to Walt Disney World, and I found that quite useful because you get used to sort of visualising yourself on the opposite side of the road. Everything's in the opposite place in the car, and it was just something that I was getting quite anxious about it, thinking this is the first time of going on this trip that we were going to hire a car, and I thought, actually, if I know where I'm going, that's going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
That's just one less thing that I have to worry about.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ben. And I think I would seek to allay any fears on that, because actually once you get into the car and you feel as if you are on the wrong side to begin with,
because everything's opposite, so you
pick it up. It is quite a simple thing. Your body, in a way, your body and your brain kind of flips.
Recalculate it, don't they?
Because
you're in the right side of the car, on the right side of the road, which is the left, not the right. It's the wrong side of everything, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's a strange one because it just happens. But I can understand how it sort of raises people's anxiety as doing it for the first time. So after that whole sort of, you pick your car up, you've flown into the US, you've managed to fit all your luggage into the car. If you go by car,
I just imagine you getting one of those economy cars, and it's like, here's 4 bags of luggage. It's not going to fit.
Don't expect somebody to come and say, "Oh well, we'll give you a free upgrade because you can't get cases in." You'll probably see the guy in the garage laughing at him again. Hey, let's see.
How much can we get from them?
Let's have a bit of fun here, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah. But a wager going on in the corner.
Yeah. So you get out of the airport. You're on the road, by whatever means. What's some of the other most important things? And Ben and Becca, I'm going to just point this across to you guys, because you have been post lockdowns and all of this. So things are a little bit different that you possibly would have done even prior to arrival that are no longer there. And this for me is the bit that I enjoyed most of. My whole planning bit was based around, you get your flight, you get your car, you get all of that sorted.
It's dining. Dining was the biggest thing for us.
God.
For 180 days.
It's gone down from 180 days to 60 days.
But there's a benefit to that, actually, because every time we'd plan 180 days, there'd be at least 2 menu changes between when we'd book the ADR to when we actually go for the meal. So actually, by having it shorter at 60 days now, not 180, hopefully
we won't be changing
menus too often.
Much.
I'm just wondering whether we hold that thought for next month. And we continue this conversation next month. Ooh. Peter and Jill should be with us. And we can have a chat about
them in their planning as well for them.
Right, that's what I'm just thinking. See, there is a method to my madness, John.
There's no madness involved, Claire. It's all.
You'll be close to your 60 days at that point as well, won't you?
Yeah.
Exactly. So my 60 days are in March.
So you're going to book your fast passes? Oh, sorry.
But then you've got yours to book.
Yep.
For the end of May, so you'll be the end of March, and then Peter and Jill will be booking theirs. We'll have ours for August. So I think it would be really helpful to do it next month. Then I won't have forgotten it all. Although I could go back and re-listen, but I think it would be quite cool to maybe we can pick this up next month.
I think we'd be in trouble if we spoke about food without Peter.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, the other one as well, and I think this is maybe to open up to listeners and viewers on YouTube as well. if you've got specific questions that you want to pose that you think that we can help with,
that's a good idea.
and it might be pertinent to your particular trip, then just drop us a line. We're on at GB Mickey Waffle on the socials. We are more than willing to try and answer some of those really difficult ones that we can't tell you to take an Uber because it's cheaper and things like that, because you never know until the hour, do you? Or whether or not to get the bus or the car because it's your holiday. I wouldn't like anyone telling me how to totally plan my holiday to the nth degree. But if there's something we could help with, then feel free to ask us the question. It might be one of those really daft questions that you just don't know the answer to and you can't find anywhere online. Don't ask us anything too difficult, but we shall endeavour to find you an answer, and we will come up with that.
Don't ask us to find you flight prices from they were 3 years ago.
No, or car hire prices either. Yeah, I keep looking and just sort of yearning and thinking, no, it's not happening.
See, I look through flight prices and go, wait, I paid that is that for one person or two? Now it's.
But do you know what? I'm just going to put a little plug in because there are people who can help you find your flight prices and your car hire, and there are friends at Portwood Travel who are partnered with us. And so, see, I am on the ball tonight.
Oh, goodness me, Claire, that's it.
I've peaked early. I'm not going to be able to say anything for the rest of the show. So our friends over at Portwood Travel, there is a link to them on our website at which is gbmickeywaffle.com, and if you want to get an idea from them for prices, and they will help you to plan your trip in an official capacity, whereas we just have lots of opinions that we can share. So we're happy to be partnered with them and offer you their support. So what else are we talking about? It's me, isn't it? I'm trying to think what else we've got. I think we've got a rather interesting feature coming up, and I'm hoping that we've got some friends who are going to be able to join us, because we're, quite frankly, old, crusty, getting on a bit.
Speak for yourself.
I was talking about John. We are grown-ups. Well, we're adult.
Most of the time.
We have this thing called adulting.
Yeah, I don't like adulting.
Speak for yourselves. That's it.
Speak for yourselves. But certainly my experience of travelling to Walt Disney World and any Disney parks has been pretty much, bar a couple of trips to Disneyland Paris, with children. And that changes as the years go on. So I've been with small children, and then more recently, obviously, with Morgan as a teenager. And John, you've had the same experience in terms of going with children, and now with teenagers. And so we thought it might be quite interesting to have that conversation about what does it feel like to go to Walt Disney World as a teen.
Ooh.
So,
and can I just put a precursor? I have not had a conversation with these guys about this. This is purely from their. No, I've not prepped them on this at all. So this could be one of those moments in life. You know, it's like you don't work with kids.
What was that TV show? What was that TV show where the kids used to hang their parents out completely? Wasn't it part of Noel's House Party or something?
Never watched stuff like that, Claire. You should know me better.
It's like, asking the questions and the kids say the most horrific things about their parents, and everyone else finds it funny.
Well, they always say never work with children or animals, so...
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think these guys are children anymore. I don't think they count as kids. They're
and equally though, what I would like to think, and I might live to regret this comment, is the fact that I've been so fortunate, and they've been very fortunate as well. But and I think this is the difference between going as a young child and how your trip changes, and your trip changes quite significantly as you get that little bit older and you get that little bit more independent, and perhaps you're given that bit of independence as a child. I think this. I tell you what, I'm not going to get my defence in here, am I? It doesn't matter what I'm going to say. There's no defending it.
I'm excited to hear what Joe and Josh are going to say to us. So, to put some youth into today's show, we are going to have the very welcome guests of the younger version of John. But they're not. So it's Josh and Joe. You want to introduce yourself, guys, so we know who is who?
Not as grumpy as I am, Claire. That's it. Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. So, Josh and Joe, do you want to introduce yourself so everyone knows?
I'm Joe.
You're listening. Yeah. So you're Joe, and then that's all right.
I'm Josh.
Right. And you're Josh. So if you're listening on the podcast, you'll know the different voices. So Joe, how old are you?
I'm 15.
You had to think about that for a minute.
I did, yeah.
Is that bad being 15?
He's either got a birthday coming up or he's just had one.
No, I haven't had either.
It's the 2022 effect. And Josh, how old are you?
I'm 18.
Oh, you're an adult.
I am an adult now, yeah.
It doesn't
Only just.
Only just.
Still a teenager.
So, you have the fortunate life of being John's sons. I was going to say unfortunate, but that's not fair.
Well, definitely got that.
And we've heard from you before on the podcast years ago when we first started, and we did.
That seems so long ago, doesn't it?
I know, and their voices have changed a lot as well. So I guess it's like 2.5 years ago we interviewed, because you interviewed Josh and Joe, and I interviewed Morgan Millie. It was a long time. We did Carousel of Questions, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
But that's ages ago. So it's great to have you here. Thank you for giving up your time. We really do appreciate it.
No problem.
But what we want to talk about is what it's like going with your dad. No, that's not what what we want to talk about is what it's like being on holiday with your family when you're probably a little bit too old to be on holiday with your family sometimes. And how you've felt it change from being a kid to being a teenager, being an adult now. And what you enjoy and what you think is a good starting point for a teen who might, we've got people who listen to this show under duress in the car with their parents because that's what their parents put on to listen to, and who might be planning a trip and are a bit apprehensive because actually they think it's not for them, maybe, or people who love it. So I think there's lots of things we can talk about.
I tell you what, I'm gonna ask you guys a question first, and this is because I don't know what's going to come out of your mouths. But how has the trips changed for you as you've got older?
I think the trips have changed massively as we've got older. Really, it's gone from being, you spend all your time with your family because you don't want to get lost at Disney, do you? That'd be the worst thing to happen. But I think as you get a little bit older, you get phones. You can have a bit more independence around the parks, and if your mum and dad don't want to go and ride Figment for the 50th time, probably, then and you do, then you can go and ride Figment whilst they go and enjoy themselves at other places that are not Figment.
The pub.
Is that the Rose and Crown?
Exactly, Claire. Yeah.
I was thinking exactly that when Josh was talking. It's like, so when your mum and dad just want to go and have a drink, and we're not old enough.
Obviously, a non-alcoholic beverage. I was more thinking Club Cool, but Rose and Crown will do.
Yeah.
They've changed massively in that way, and also as you get older, it becomes more about the ride experience more so than the character experience. And that's just something we've found, isn't it?
I think also like having the experiences of like you can do all the different tours, and there's all the different things that you can sort of go around the parks and experience, and I think that sort of opens up more when you're a teenager rather than when you're young and you don't really know what you're going to be doing.
I think you're right, because some of the tours, they're 16 and over, aren't they? So things like Keys to the Kingdom, Backstage Magic, all of those tours, that you get to see any backstage areas are for 16 and over. So that's a really quite a blanket line, and so I think you're right that there's something about having the window to the opportunity to see stuff that perhaps has been hidden for lots of good reasons. But I think I'm interested. I'm interested by the character experience and the fact that it goes away from the character experience for you. Do you think that's across the board?
I think once you sort of get older, it's sort of it's still nice to go and see the characters because that's one of the main parts of Disney, but it sort of goes more away from seeing all the characters to then going on like Splash Mountain and all of like the more thrill rides that you couldn't do when you were little. So it's just getting the balance right of seeing some of the characters, but also getting to do all the rides too.
Can I also add in there that you actually found a different way of meeting the characters, and this is this 2019 was our last trip, and whilst a lot of people would still do the lovely memory maker photo pass, call it what you want, type photo, and the stage meet and greet, but there's that opportunity of and I think you guys have both done it, is the actual selfie with a character and then have your selfie photographed by the PhotoPass photographer, and you've actually got two different versions of the same picture, and that was an interesting one, certainly for me as somebody who enjoys taking pictures, seeing how that actually changed and how that actually became part of your remit of you still went to see the characters. Don't deny it. I know that you went to see the characters, right?
No,
Josh particularly went to see Baymax because Baymax is one of those. And so it's just a different meeting. It's not a...
Yeah, it's a different meeting experience. It becomes more about the photo opportunities and more than the actual character interaction. I think that's what we've found.
I think you can also get a bit cheekier with the characters when you're an adult or a young adult. You can have a conversation with them that rather than I love it when Millie goes to see characters. We've taught her well so that she now asks difficult questions rather than just wanders up and does the hug. When you're allowed to touch them again, but the hug and the photo. Actually having a conversation and asking a question. What she always asks Cinderella where Bruno is. Not, we don't talk about Bruno. Other Bruno, dog Bruno. But she always asks where Bruno is and what he's doing, and that always throws Cinderella because no one ever asks about her dog. Let's face it. So it's just one of those things.
Haven't you?
I didn't even know the dog was called Bruno.
No, I didn't.
Did you not?
No, neither did I.
Well, it's because we don't talk about Bruno. You know? But I think there is something about being older, so you can what you put into it is what you get out of it. So being able to have that conversation with a face character and interaction is, as you say, is different. It's not just the pose and the smile and the move on to the next, the autograph book and things like that. So there was something you mentioned about rides and attractions, and Joe, you said about doing the bigger thrill attractions and how you couldn't do them when you were smaller.
Yeah.
Which of the other attractions, the non-thrill attractions, are the ones that you still enjoy, but you might not like to admit? But it's only us. There's only us on the screen.
For
Nobody
sure,
else is
Small
listening.
World. I mean, you can never be too old for Small World. It's always one of those things that you look forward to it, and you ride it, and you're halfway around, and then that song gets stuck in your head, and then gets stuck in your head for the rest of the day, and
the rest of the trip.
Rest of your life.
We just missed out the key attraction actually that he used to ride when we used to go and do Space Mountain. People Mover.
Yeah.
So Joe would ride the People Mover at least 3 or 4 times a trip to the Magic Kingdom, as I would go on to Small World with my dad, and then not Small World, Space Mountain with my dad, and then Space Mountain with my mum, and we'd swap over. Joe would go on the People Mover, and that was a real good one for you.
Must have had about 10 trips around there most of the days. You know.
Yeah. Just leave him there and we'll pick him up later.
Just do constant trips around and around.
Yeah, just staying on. Bring your lunch up there and everything.
I've got a horrible thought there. When on one of his first trips, we could have just attached the buggy on the back of the People Mover and just kept going round and round and round.
Just go round and round and
I don't know,
round.
when it goes around that first corner, it does pick up speed a little bit. You might have had an issue.
Yeah, but when it goes into the dark and into Space Mountain.
Yeah.
I feel like he's on Space Mountain.
Yeah.
Then,
Could have waited.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Josh? Is there a non-thrill attraction that you still really enjoy, but perhaps don't always admit?
Plenty of them. There isn't actually an attraction in Disney I don't enjoy. So I would say the main one.
That's a strong statement.
It is a strong
Massive statement, that one.
Yeah.
Let's just unpack that a moment.
Even Navi River Journey.
No, Navi River Journey is, for as boring as it may be, is actually quite underrated for the scenery and the actual story it tries to tell. Once you've watched Avatar, because the first time I'd ridden it, I'd never watched Avatar before, and I didn't really get it at all. Whereas the second time, when we'd been back on another trip, I'd watched Avatar, and I kind of understood what the point of the attraction was. That doesn't mean I'd queue up 2 hours for it, but I would, if it was walk on, I would go on it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, non-thrill attraction I enjoyed. I would probably go for Living with the Land. I really like Living with the Land.
He's been
always forcing onto Figment as well.
Figment, and the Seas with Nemo. You can see a little recurring theme going on in Epcot here, where we.
I'm feeling the Future World love. Feeling Future World love.
Yeah. But no, you can't do Living with the Land.
So let's think about Epcot as a team, because obviously, whilst we know your mum and dad are drinking around the world, you can't do that. So how, John? Don't give me that face. You know that's the face.
I'm saying,
you know it's true.
For the benefit of podcast listeners, I'm not saying anything at all that's derogatory, and my face is purely one of shock and surprise.
Shock and surprise and sheer horror at my suggestion. How does that feel in terms of? Are you happy to walk around World Showcase and just absorb the the interactions and the atmosphere? Do you snack instead of drink? Because I know that's something that Morgan and Millie have done. That every time we've had a drink, they've had a food item, a kakigori in Japan or something from Caramel Kucha, something like that. How do you work through Epcot in that way?
Well, I think I always used to go to France for the ice cream. The ice cream in France is particularly nice. But I think also single rider queues. You can have it's nice and quick queue, but you can also have a bit of fun for the ride photos. You can put a little.
What do you mean by that, Joe? What do you mean by
bunny
that?
ears or something like that?
I actually think Epcot's the best park for I would say for people of our age who want a little bit of independence or want to go and ride a couple of rides. I think a lot of the rides in Epcot are generally short queues, barring Test Track and Soarin'. But even then, Test Track has single rider, so you go and do single rider. And Soarin' nowadays isn't that long of a queue anyway, since they put the third screen in. So I think Epcot's probably the best part for that side of it. As for World Showcase, as you said, Claire, I think they used to have the Agent P adventure. I don't know if they still have something similar to that around there. Have they taken that away?
Sadly not.
Yeah.
They've taken that away, which I'm really upset about. And we know how much we love Phineas.
It always used to be a bit of fun, that was.
Yeah, you go around the World Showcase, or you could stay in one area in World Showcase where you've agreed to meet up with your parents afterwards. You could stay in one area and do a little Agent P thing. I think there's just a lot to do in Epcot. You can never really get bored of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows as well. So if they're particularly taking a long time, then you can always go and see a show in France or don't go to France. Actually, no. That's probably the one place I would not recommend going.
Why not?
Are you talking about? I know. Can we just make some clarification here? Are you talking about the Beauty and the Beast sing along, or are you talking about the Impressions de France?
Impressions de France, Claire. Yes, we. We've only been to see that once.
If you're feeling sleepy, then that's a.
Yeah, we've been to see that once with our friends from Portwood Travels kids, and we've never been back again.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
It's good for the air conditioning, but that's it.
I had my ice cream for that, or else I would have been fast asleep. So, yeah.
Did they let you eat ice cream in the theatre there?
Well, they let me have it anyway. They must have known we were in for a bad ride.
Yeah.
Gosh. But I think you're right. There are lots of things to do, isn't there? Because you've got the 360 cinema in.
The Canada one's very good.
China and in Canada, and then you've got American Adventure. So there is lots of stuff to go and see and do, and I think that it feels like quite a safe park, doesn't it? Because it's all on a loop and it's quite spread out in terms of distance travelled. But actually, you're not going to lose anyone particularly easily, I don't think.
Unless it's a weekend during Food and Wine.
Right, unless those food booths. The stag and hen parties.
In the age of we've all got phones, and the Wi-Fi is very good at Disney World. So you can very easily keep connected, can't you? And so if something was to happen or you did get lost, and you very easily you get a way out, wouldn't you, with your phones? So
there's not many places. It's Disney just have that thing where you can just go and roam and you feel safe. From any perspective, there's always a cast member that's not far away, or someone that you feel comfortable talking to if something was to happen.
I think that's a really important point, actually, Ben, because actually, if I was a parent taking a child or a teen to somewhere where you're going to be sharing a park with 50,000 people, and someone said you're going to feel okay about letting them go off on their own, I might go, don't be ridiculous. But it does feel safe, and I think that's a true, genuine safety feeling. It's not a fake Disney bubble safety thing. Realistic. I think there are the security, there are cast members everywhere, and the process. You're confident in terms of processes. If something was to go wrong, someone was to get hurt, someone to get injured, someone to get lost. There are things in place, and there are safety measures there.
I think as well, Claire, can I just sorry to butt in? I think that's also important to actually say that if it's your first visit, and I know we started the show about planning a trip, but if it's your first visit, that's very difficult to do. Having had a number of visits and also experienced that bit certainly when the boys were younger, we also had protocols in place as to what does happen we discussed, I think, what does happen if you get lost or if you get split up. That journey from sort of out of Magic Kingdom is one that is quite frightening. So if you are of an age, even when the boys were certainly even young teens, it's still that bit you need to discuss the worst that can happen scenario. But when they were younger, it was always that case of stand on a bench so that your head is above the height of the crowd. Don't move. Stay in the last place that you actually saw us. Don't try and go walking around trying to find us. You won't find us. So stay where you were. Stand on a bench, and then approach a cast member, or a cast member will probably come and meet you because you stood on a bench and they don't like you.
Stood on a bench,
so you're instantly recognisable as sort of as a cast member coming to you, and then you can explain exactly what happens.
And I think failing all else as well, we always had an agreement if we were to get lost, and we're not that it ever happened, but if they didn't come back in a certain amount of time, then we would all meet at guest relations or something, wouldn't we? Just
you'd have a rendezvous point identified.
Yeah. And the one thing, again, expressed to your own kids is do not, under any circumstances, leave the park.
Yeah.
And that's, it's just as it sounds really weird, but if you actually put that whole plan in place for you as a family, it becomes that bit of freedom becomes a whole lot easier to implement, and a whole lot easier for your children to go and enjoy, because you actually, where they're going, you know the area in which they're going to explore. You have agreed time slots to come back and to revisit. Yeah, it does take a little bit of time. I was just going to pick up on something as well, because I think for both of you, you've not been of an age yet where you've actually enjoyed those sort of tours that come up when you're post 16. So as kids, and certainly as teens, because I think as teens it's really important that there's something different in the parks. What kind of tours would you recommend? That certainly people going out this year, if they've never done a tour, they are available again, thankfully. What sort of thing would you guys recommend?
Well, from a personal view, as a Living with the Land fan.
Okay, right, we're going on the big loving on Living with the Land tonight.
Well, it gets a lot of hate, I've seen, and I don't understand why. But the Behind the Scenes tour, I would say, is a very, very important one to go on. 'Cause I know that for me, certainly, not only opens your eyes to a lot of things going on in the world, but also shows you how it all works. And I think that's quite important, isn't it, for a ride that's quite subtle as you're going around as to these what actually goes on.
I think that's right, Josh, because it's quite a backstage intensive tour. Actually, most of the for a tour that you can go on, I think 7 and over.
Yeah,
the majority of the tour takes place backstage. Apart from the little bit where you're on stage in the area inside the greenhouse, and you can see people when you're going around on the boat. You can see some people looking at some of the crops, but a lot of the tour takes place backstage, which is weird when you think that actually some of the backstage stuff is hidden. But I agree. I think it's massively underrated tour. And ride. But
I'm just glad it's back for this year.
And I would definitely take Mills.
It's one of the cheapest tours as well.
It is. It's like $29 per adult. Wow. It's $29 for a child as well. That's without tax. I think the interesting bit about it is as you progress towards the end of the tour, and once you're on stage, and you're actually part of it,
and that's people's experiences, aren't you? And that's what I mean. It's such a subtle ride, because even when you are part of that on stage thing, you don't actually feel like you're part of it, if you know what I mean. You're not obviously
you're not stealing cucumbers.
No, exactly. But another thing I'll add as well is the fact that you get to learn about how they use these crops in the parks and stuff like that. Like, I never knew until the ride that they actually use these vegetables or the fish and stuff like that actually in the land pavilion for your foods and stuff like that. So I thought that was really, really interesting. There's loads of little things like that, and that actually make it quite a special tour, I think.
Yeah, I'd probably agree on that one as well. But I've always been at an age where I can't do the ones like Keys of the Kingdom and all of those type of ones. And I think that's when, if we go again, I think that'll be a good one to do as well, because it'll sort of give you a bit of an insight into what goes on and things like that. So that would be quite interesting to be able to do that one.
You'll be able to hear all the facts firsthand, not by your dad regurgitating them at you. I think you're right. I think it's the opportunity to be able to embrace all of them, and certainly, I think as you get to 16 and over, it becomes, the world's your oyster at that point in terms of access to these things. So, I look forward to hearing about how your tour experience goes when you next go.
Yeah, equally, the fact that both of these kids have met your Morgan on a previous one, which you've mentioned enough times already, but it's worthy for anyone who doesn't know. Claire Knight, we're on the same Disney tour away back. I think it was 2012. I think we got it down to something like that.
I think we worked out. Yeah, it must have been 2012.
And we did the family tour in Magic Kingdom, which was an actually extraordinary tour as well. But we've got pictures of these two guys,
Morgan and Josh and Joe.
How bizarre.
We had no idea. I mean, it's uncanny. It's bizarre.
The definition of a small world, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is a small world.
I cannot get my head around it at all.
Yeah. No, we've harped on about that a number of times. What else? Come on, what else do we want from these guys to help people enjoy having a teen at Disney? Because let's be honest, it's not the easiest of things. So
I think, as we mentioned earlier about planning, how much sort of input as a teen do you get from planning your trip? Because it's like, we've spoken about what it's like being in the parks, but how much, because for a lot of our sort of trips, they start when we book the holiday and start the planning.
Yeah. Well, I think from a young age, like you didn't really get the opportunity of what fast passes you wanted and much of an input, because you didn't really mind. But once you got a bit older, you started getting the choices of, would you like to do Avatar or Everest, or some just a bit of choice like that, which sort of also gives you a bit of independence as well, because you get to make these decisions and, well, at least have a bit of a say into the decisions, and it's just quite nice as you get older to be able to have that.
I think we're quite fortunate as well in the fact that we all like the big thrill rides, don't we? There isn't any rides that none of us don't particularly fancy, but I think certainly for other people, if there was a couple of people in the family that didn't like Rock and Roller Coaster or something, then you could book the two kids on to go and do Rock and Roller Coaster while the other two go and do
Toy Story Mania
or something like that. Yeah, because you're of that age, you can have the flexibility more than anything, I think, to kind of change around your day, instead of it having to be, we've got to go and look after these two on this ride, so we won't do Rock and Roller Coaster. Whereas if you want to go and do Rock and Roller Coaster when you get to this age, you can go and do it.
Yeah.
That's where that changes massively as you get older, yeah.
And I think there's also a different interaction level, isn't it? You mentioned Toy Story Mania, and actually as a family, how competitive are you all and who wins? And
that just
increases as you get older.
Because I've never been the best at Toy Story Mania, but I have to say, Josh and my dad have quite the rivalry, let's just say that, and usually come off with a bit of rope burn from the pullback rope.
I think that's probably in a trip report somewhere. I played Toy Story Mania. I did win that day, but I got a big rope burn right down the side of my finger. So for the rest of the holiday, I had a plaster around my finger just to recover from Toy Story Mania.
I went
through a really good spell at Toy Story Mania where I would practice for the full year. They used to have a Toy Story Mania Wii game on the old Wii.
Yeah.
And I would practice for our trip to Disney. And when we got there, I knew where all the 5,000 marks on the ring tops,
all the secret ones that come out.
It paid off.
Yeah. It paid off then. It did. It was,
It's the same with Buzz Lightyear, isn't it? You got to beat him.
Well, I'd just like to say that I was the first one in the family to get the 99999. So
Did you get Galactic Hero? Well done.
I was the second, so yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
See, and I think that this is the fun bit that we have that rivalry as well. You know, it's I think it just changes the dynamic and the conversation that happens during the day as well, because it becomes all a bit more fun when you can wind each other up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if someone's thrashed somebody else.
As you get more experience at the game as well, Clay, you have a look at the hourly leaderboards and stuff at the end where you can compare yourselves, and it's very clever in that sense as well, where you compare upon your little buggy that you're in. So it can become either like a family game, or it can just be
very competitive,
or it can just be a casual game for people who just decide they just want to go and look at plates come at you at the face and stuff like that.
Toy Story Mania is never a casual game.
No. There's even an option out there, Claire. We've never played it as a casual game, but
it's
I hear that some people do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ben actually beat me once last
For the
trip,
first
for the
time.
first time ever.
There you go, you see.
I want to ask you guys about food as well, because obviously when you're younger, you get the kids' meals, Mickey Check, whatever it is on the. In terms of food options, and you know, some people are more inclined to try new things. They've got a more extensive palate than chicken nuggets. Love you, Sammy.
Yeah.
But how do you find the food at Disney as a team? Because obviously there are some people who don't want to embrace the variety of options that are available for lots of reasons. And do you think that it works for you guys?
I think we're possibly the worst people to ask this question to, because we will eat every food. Again, like every ride, we'll ride every ride, and we'll eat every food. But
you don't care. Again, just eat it all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, with the bit like the rides where you don't all have to go to the same place. I think that's very much the same with the foods as well. If you're having a takeout or a table, if you're having a table service, it's a little bit more awkward if you're on the same dining plan and stuff. But certainly if you're having a counter service or something like that, then very easily you can. If you go back to Epcot again, if you want Chinese food, some people, one of you can go to China, another person can go to Japan, and then you all congregate again at a meetup place, can't you?
Cash can somewhere.
A designated, designated
cash can. So
again, I think there's definitely flexibility on that with the foods.
Yeah.
But as I said, we basically eat anywhere. So
yeah, I think
our parents go, we go, don't we?
Yeah, I think it also depends. If you're on the dining plan, obviously when you're sort of in a restaurant or something like that, you kind of have the choices of being able to get like a steak or something like quite extravagant that you wouldn't usually be able to get because it's either too expensive or something like that. So having the freedom to be able to get something like that, or be able to get absolutely anything without really thinking about how much it is or anything like that, I think it's also a big thing for us too.
I think that's a really good point you make there as well, in the fact that I know we've certainly done this where we'll share a dish and we'll just to try more different foods, because again you're not going to be able to try some of these foods from World Showcase again, for example, unless you actually go to these countries. So I think we've done it certain times at different places. I know we did it in Morocco where I'd share a bit of my steak with Joe whilst he had a bit of his lamb, and that works really well for us. And I think if you can have a little team of food gangs or something, if you want to share your dish, then it works really well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's all fair game, isn't it? You got to give it all a try.
You've got to try as much as you can. That's my best bit of advice. Is you've got to try everything that's on offer.
As a dad, I will fess up as to a cunning plan we had one time of going to, I think it was Citrico's, if my memory serves me correctly, and the boy we're going to pay out of pocket for the boys, so they were on the kids menu for that night. And I don't think Joe's probably about 10. I think Josh was about 12, 13 or something, and it just didn't work. I just like it was just one of them nights. It's just wrong place, wrong restaurant, wrong food choice.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
No, so it ended up they got their meal arrived, and it was just like nicely chosen. This, that, and the other. You know, it was that accessible sort of burger option or the chicken nuggets option, etc. And then you just got that look across the table. It's just like, is that it? Is that it? That's me tea. That's me tea. Then I've had it. I'm going to be hungry in half an hour, Dad. Like, you know.
I think in our defence, not sounding too snobbish or anything. I think when you're eating at those kind of more upscale places, the portion sizes are scaled down a little bit as it is.
Yeah.
I think if you are 10, 11 or 12 or something, then kids' meals kind of go off the table in a way because they scale down the kids' meals as well.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a good point actually. If you've got growing lads, actually a Mickey check meal is really not going to fit the bill. Whereas if you've got if you've got a child who doesn't eat very much, then it might work okay. But I think there's something about the portion sizes and the availability of choice that changes as your children grow, and I think that's important.
I think being in the park as well. If you're in there all day, then having a kids menu meal or something like that just isn't really enough. It might be normally, but because you're sweating so much around the parks and you're just so hungry, you just want a little bit more, don't you? Then
you're burning calories, aren't you? That's the thing. You're burning.
Your dad hasn't bought you breakfast.
Yeah, he's tight. We know that.
We need to be going rope drop. It needs to be rope drop. We need to be in the park right on opening breakfast. Let's sack that off.
Boys, we're going for a run. I think that's the thing, that if you're doing 20,000 steps a day around the parks, you are burning calories. So I think that's important in terms of the planning discussion we'll be having next month about food, is that actually if you're counting on your 14-year-old child going to be eating a kids meal at $11 every day, you're going to get a bit of a shock, because unless your child is a very small eater, that's not going to hit the mark. I think the sustainability of small meals, because they're cheaper, is not. You're going to end up coming a cropper. I think probably.
Yeah,
I think
it's probably worth.
Go on, Ben.
I was going to say it's probably worth getting a bigger counter service meal and sharing it and splitting it instead of going for the kids meal, because sometimes you get so much more. I think probably value for money and more food for it as well.
Yeah, or an extra couple of sides. Some of the sides are massive. Think of the chicken fried rice at the Yak and Yeti counter service. That's like a whole meal, and it's a side. I think you can be quite clever about how you feed your growing offspring.
Yeah. I remember one of the last years Joe was on the kids menu, and I was definitely on the adults one, and Joe was on the kids one. And I think what we found was as you get a little bit older, you want to get more adventurous with your foods, and you'd rock up to a place like Be Our Guest or something, and you look at the kids menu and you've got chicken nuggets, your standard macaroni cheese, as we're all having lovely nice steaks and other more adventurous sorts of foods. But the kids menu is very same as you go around the place. So if you are on any sort of dining plan, I know that's not available at the minute, but if it does come back, then if you are on something like that, then I would say if you want to get adventurous with your foods, then upgrading to the adults one is definitely a better way to go. Otherwise you're just on mac and cheese and chicken nuggets and chips for a week instead of being able to go around the nice different
Sammy's
places.
All right, but
I think that's really interesting, because I think as well, and I think as much as you spoke about fast pass choices as well, I'd also say that you were involved an awful lot more as you grow older. In restaurant choices as well.
I think that also came from experience of different places too. I think because we were very fortunate to have been to Disney as we were growing up, we knew which places we really liked and which places we thought were okay and which places we wouldn't go back to. And so as we got older, I think that became more of like when we did get the 60-day countdown or something. I think that became more of it was a family discussion, wasn't it? Instead of, we'll go and try here, we'll go and try here, we'll go and try here. I think it became, did we really like this place last time? Would we go back? Or would we like to try this new place that's open, or would we rather go back to a place we really enjoyed last time?
Yeah.
I think it became more of a family discussion than, just picking and choosing which ones, you wanted to go to, and not really knowing what you were going to get.
If you could both choose one restaurant to go to tomorrow, where would it be?
Oh.
Sorry, just throwing that out there.
I really like going to the Sci-Fi Diner. I think it's something that you don't get anywhere else. You get to watch a film while you're eating in like a little car, and it's sort of just like I don't know. It's just a completely different experience, and than you sort of get anywhere else that you really go. And I think it's just a nice little change that Disney have managed to make to just a normal sit down meal, which just makes everyone want to go there.
I'm
not one
really struggling, but the one that first came to my mind was Yak and Yeti in Animal Kingdom. I don't know why I really like Yak and Yeti, but if I can choose one that's off-site, I can't remember the name of the one at Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Sanaa.
What was the name?
Sanaa.
That was it.
Yeah.
Sanaa mainly for the bread service more than anything. I really like.
Yeah.
They would be my two choices.
Yeah.
And then if we got a choice at Disney Springs as well.
Keep going. Yeah, there you go.
We've got Raglan Road at Disney Springs.
Oh, Raglan Road, yeah. The bread there's lovely as well.
Yeah, the bread there's nice.
Bread there's nice, yeah.
Yeah.
There's too many choices at Disney Springs.
I could keep listing them all night, Claire, to be honest with you. Yeah.
It's just exploring different places.
Is there anywhere you haven't eaten that your dad was too tight to pay for that you haven't been to that you really want to go? Get your options in early. Get for whatever your next trip is.
Victoria and Albert's.
Or somewhere that's open since
they're not old enough.
Since you've been.
True.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere that you think I really want to go there?
I would like to experience Skipper's Canteen. When we looked at the menu, we did look at the menu, and it wasn't particularly to our liking the first time we saw it, but they've probably changed it since we were last there. I would just for the experience, just right next to the Jungle Cruise, and all the cast members are dressed up in the skipper's uniform. I think that would be nice.
I think what's that one where you're like on that boat in Disney Springs?
Boathouse or paddlefish.
Yeah,
could be paddlefish.
Yeah, something like that.
It was the one that I can't remember what it used to be called.
Used to be Fulton's Crab
House.
Yeah, something like that. The menu's never looked the best, but it is just sort of you're sitting on a boat, and it's just another completely different experience.
That's a good idea.
I think, to be fair, Claire, I think that's a testament to the experience we've had actually, and the fact that we've tried a lot of places. So I think we've been very fortunate.
Like most things that you want to.
Yeah. And with Skipper's Canteen, make sure you ask for the secret menu.
Maybe I need to go there in May. Maybe I'll go.
There you go.
Yes.
The other place you should go to in May, Claire, I think I mentioned it in my Carousel of Questions, if I remember rightly, was the Morocco place. I can't remember what it's called.
Spice Road Table.
Yeah.
In Morocco.
Yeah.
If you like a steak, I had a steak in there.
That's your greatest meal ever at Disney.
It was.
Really surprising.
Really?
It was one of them ones that we were umming and ahhing about, wasn't it? Because the menu never strikes out to you as and Moroccan food. You never really think, would they make nice steaks or make nice lamb shanks or anything. But honestly, I think that was the nicest steak I'd ever had.
Yeah.
See, I'm just wondering whether I do Spice Road Table and watch Harmonious from there, maybe.
Yeah, because we watched Illuminations from there, and you get a really nice view.
I'll take your recommendation. I'll put it on the list.
I'm going to work out where that is, because with Harmonious, it depends where you are, because it's a much more limited place.
And the tacos.
Yeah, it's just next. Yeah,
you get a better view, I think, might be from Rose and Crown, which, if I remember rightly, they're still doing that dining package.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat the Rose and Crown.
No.
Surprisingly good. It is good.
Scotch egg. It's what was it? A substantial meal.
Yeah.
I've seen the mushy peas and say, yeah, no, it's not for me.
Yeah,
I think I'd rather grab something from Katsura Grill and go and hang out in just on the lower terrace.
yeah.
I want to say thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. It's been
I want to ask you, is there anything else that they've want to talk about? Because actually, it's been really interesting. Because I know that it's
Have we missed anything?
But it's a daunting prospect coming on here, and it's daunting listening to your dad record these shows, and then suddenly you get thrown into the mix, and you suddenly think, "Oh, what do I say?" But is there anything else? Because you're just aware that you mix with a lot of people who have looked at sort of your Disney travels and gone, "Oh, you're going there again." You must be dead bored of that. But is there anything else that anything else that you think I want to tell? I want to tell all these people who listen to the Great British Mickey Waffle. It might be a load of rubbish. It might be your most embarrassing moment at Disney. Whatever.
Or your dad's most embarrassing moment.
Well, yeah.
Now's the chance.
No, I think that's the nicest thing about having a Disney community as well. I've certainly we've met best friends through the Disney community. That you can share these experiences with, because anybody that you speak to that have never visited Disney or don't understand what Disney is about, you can't share some of these experiences with them. I think we were talking about this the other night, weren't we? I think one of the ones I really remember was when we were in the Magic Kingdom, and I can't remember how old we are. It was one of our first trips, and a cast member came up to us and said, "Oh, we've had some hooligans, so to speak, who've locked the toilet doors."
Hooligans
in one of the toilets, and we're thinking, right, okay, so, and they made us crawl underneath these toilet doors and unlock them all for them. In return for, did we get like three free fast passes or something?
golden ticket, yeah, free fast pass.
Oh wow!
Yeah. But it's little Disney experiences like that I think if you haven't experienced Disney yet, that you'll maybe not find out that experience again. But I think my dad's got the legendary saying that let the magic come to you, and I think that's certainly something. No matter how old you are, you'll find that is the case, because many times the magic's come to us, hasn't it?
I think also one of the main things I'd probably say is if you're staying on site, or if you're in any of these places, that don't be scared to get involved in the activities that they do at the hotels as well. Some people think that they're only for like the 5-year-olds and stuff like that, but some of the things that they actually play and do, like in the pools, and you got volleyball and table tennis tournaments and stuff like that, and it's just it's nice to sort of wind down and just be able to play a bit of volleyball or water polo or something like that, just completely different, instead of just going into the parks and stuff like that. If you're just around the pool, it's a nice little change.
I think they're great tips.
Yeah, that was good. That.
Yeah. Let the magic come to you by climbing under toilet doors. That's one thing. Dad's never mentioned that.
That's going on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Let the magic come to you while climbing under toilet doors on the back.
Yeah, absolutely. And most importantly, which toilet was it? I need to know. Which restroom?
It was the ones in Magic Kingdom quite close to Peter Pan, but it was before
the Rapunzel.
Before the Rapunzel ones were built.
Oh, okay.
And they were a bit grim, which is probably why a cast member asked to
got 3 fast passes.
My cast member probably didn't want to crawl under the toilet doors.
Oh my goodness.
But it was early in the day, so I'd already done my little parental risk assessment on that, and I thought, could be something.
Kind of want those fast passes.
Didn't mention fast passes. He just asked if we would.
Another one, Claire, you're probably not being told about the magic coming to you. Is I think we got a free fast pass again because we had to wait so long at this Canada thing so Joe could get a wristband from the Canada thing. So anyway, they gave us a free fast pass, and you could use it for anything. So we obviously went Avatar Flight of Passage, and so we rode it, and We went through the fast pass queue, showed them our free fast pass. They didn't take it off us. So we went round again. We went through the fast pass queue again. Showed them the fast pass. Didn't take it off us. So we went round again and again. They still didn't take it off us. So that was a very, very useful free fast pass in the end.
That's fantastic. That was,
Yeah.
I've never had one like that either. I need one of them.
That's another Disney tip. If they're going to give you anything, you take it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If it's free, you take it.
If it's free, you take it, yeah.
I think we've had that
Right,
before with
sure.
like the fast pass when it's the ride's broken down, but then you've gone to redeem multiple experience, but then it's still on there. So you just, do you know what? Let's see if it goes again. And I think we had that a couple of times.
Yeah.
The ones with those have been generally on a yellow piece of paper, which requires
The ones handwritten.
which requires somebody higher up from a cast member to actually sign off. And
right.
usually the one for Flight of Passage was very fortunate because normally they have to put a line through the rides that it's not meant to be for, and they forgot to do that. And the people on Flight of Passage probably hadn't seen this yellow ticket that coming through there because we shouldn't have been allowed to do it. But
It
So there you
works
are.
out.
Let
It works.
the magic come to you. That was the Disney magic being sprinkled upon us that day to go and ride Flight
You know
of
what?
Passage.
Pixie dust is important, and I think
Oh,
you're
yeah.
absolutely
Yeah, I think
It is.
that's the main thing too. You know, some of the best and the most memorable moments aren't the ones that you plan and aren't the ones that you always. And it's great to plan your trips and everything like that, but it's some of the most memorable things and things that you always look back on are the things that it's just the little things that kind of happen around the parks accidentally or just not on purpose, and it's just quite nice to have those little moments too. Those unique ones too, actually.
go on. So, what's your favourite?
Oh, probably probably the one with Nemo and the cast members. You just had Katie Wetzel on as well. And I think that was definitely one that I'll always look back to. And we're just going to the toilets next to the Nemo after the show, and we just poked our head round the corner, nosily, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And and we saw all the cast members there, and
That was the day we were doing 4 parks in one day for my birthday, and so that's the thing. If you've got any special occasion or anything, make it known to a cast member because wear a hat or a badge or something like that because you do get special treatment,
and they'll make it the best days they can. So,
but yeah, a lot of magic came to us on that day, including the Nemo bit. We were also in Epcot that night, and we met someone from a TV series that we used to watch as a kid called Des from Austin and Ally, and the actor Des was in Germany, I think, in the shop in Germany.
Yeah.
And again, it's all happened in one day, and it's just little things like that makes Disney so special because you don't really get that anywhere else. You don't have people who stop you and wish you a magical day or anything on streets of England, do you? So, no.
Fantastic. Thank you, Josh and Joe. It's been amazing having you here. Actually, John, I think we're going to get rid of you. We're just going to keep them.
I was thinking the same.
You've lost your spot, I'm afraid. Yeah, that's it. You're out. You're back. You're in, boys. What are you doing next month? It's been such a pleasure having you here to talk about your experience previously, your current experience, and then hopefully we'll hear more in the future from you. So thank you.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's been lots of fun, and I think that one of those things that we can bear in mind when we're planning our trips, and listeners can bear in mind when they're planning their trips, that to have their teenagers involved in the planning as well is important.
Yeah,
it's vital, Claire, and I think as well one of the things that really comes out, certainly for me, is the fact that the more involved a teenager becomes in your trip, the more engaged they are, and the more that they get something out of it too. And these are not cheap holidays that anybody's planning.
No.
And if you've got a teenager, we all know where it can all sort of disappear, sort of the other direction where you have that lack of engagement, and you don't want that to happen when it's you're in the most magical place on earth, and it's funny when you see other families, because I know we've laughed. And we just walk past them, and some of these teenagers are in a right strut. And we strangely enough just say, happiest place on earth. And it just has to be done.
I agree, John. And I think I would just say, from my point of view, I think there are times where you have to just go, it's just one of those days. Let's move on. Tomorrow's a new one. And start fresh the next day. Sometimes we all have, we can all. It doesn't. You don't have to be a teenager to have a moment of frustration in Disney. And I think sometimes if it feels like it's a difficult one, then you just suck it up, start again, and have a sit down, have a think for a minute, have a bit of peace and quiet, and then move on. So thank you.
Gonna get a Dole Whip.
Right. Go get a Dole Whip or a coffee or
it'll cure your blues.
Joffrey's donut.
Exactly.
You're either tired, hungry, sugar deprived, or
all of the above.
All of the above.
Have some sugar, have a sit down, and then get going again.
It usually happens to us on our first day, when we've tried to go to the park on that first day, thinking, we will make it, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And then you realise you get to Epcot at 9 p.m. thinking
7 o'clock at night, and it's like bang, it hits you. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
We shall see what happens. Right.
Thanks very much for having us anyway.
Yeah,
it's been
thank
a pleasure
you very
speaking
much.
to you.
Thanks for joining us.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you.
So, is there anything we need to do at the end of the show? I've forgotten. We've mentioned our socials. We've talked about us being at GB Mickey Waffle, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. We're on TikTok as well now. Our website is gbmickeywaffle.com. Please do connect with us via DMs, or you can even email us old school. So you used to talk about sending a letter or a postcard being old school. An email is old school these days. The email address is waffleon@gbmickeywaffle.com. Yes, I've got that right, haven't I?
Yes.
And I just want to bring some attention to the amazing T-shirts that are being displayed by John and Josh, and then in the background of the photos of the camera angle, they see our amazing merch, which is new for 2022. We have a whole series of merch that's available. You can get to it via our website, TeePublic, Redbubble. It's available and very well designed. They're good quality. We've tested them from both options, and they're pretty good.
The other thing I would add as well, though, Claire, and this really sort of is just a shameless plug as to the fact that you get your T-shirt, you need to wear it, but it actually is part and parcel of what we're doing. But people who are listening to the podcast can't see them. So if you're listening to the podcast, go to the website, our website, and then you can actually see the link there to TeePublic and Redbubble. They're really nice, and I've got to say, for people who watch me regularly on here, you know that I do try to find a unique T-shirt for nearly every show that we do. I have got a huge collection of Disney T-shirts and more. But these are really good. This is a good a quality T-shirt that I would pay for, and I'm as you say, I'm right impressed.
I'm looking forward to seeing them in the parks, seeing people wearing them in the parks.
Ben, I think we should start a challenge there, because I know we've got regular listeners who are already bought.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So, there we go. Let's put a challenge out there. Joe's trying to get his Sivar Co T-shirt in the screen there as well, which is thank you, son. That was.
Where's the most interesting place in Walt Disney World you can have a selfie taken wearing one of our Waffle On shirts?
Sorry.
I think we should have, if people could put it in the Wafflers Arms chat, if we had a picture of the T-shirt in front of each icon in each park.
Bonus points if it's for the icon that's on your T-shirt.
Doesn't exist anymore. You can have photos.
Don't worry.
Where it used to be.
Is the meet and greet with Sorcerer Mickey back yet? Won't be long, because the ones in Epcot, have come back last weekend. So I don't think it'll be long before a few more. That'd be pretty cool.
What a challenge! So any listener, if you go in the parks, you bought some of these T-shirts, Send your pictures. Send us your pictures. We're gonna. Yeah, I think we can have real good fun with this, guys.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll have good fun with this.
And if you like what we're doing, tell a friend about it. Give us a like. Give us a share.
Yeah.
Give us a review on your podcast streaming platform of choice, whether that be Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the others that you frequent. Tell us what you like about the show, and tell your friends if they're Disney friends or if they're going to be Disney friends. Tell them about us so that we can reach out to them too.
Yeah.
And we can be part of your planning journey for your next holiday as well.
So, I hopefully have remembered everything, Ben. I'm looking at you thinking...
do you know what? I think so. No, I think that's everything. You've done TikTok,
right.
you've... Yeah?
Yeah. YouTube.
No, yeah, YouTube. The Great British Mickey Waffle. Well, hopefully people are going to be watching this.
Have I redeemed myself? Am I still on the naughty step?
I don't know. You've got to wait to see Phantasmic. So
You're always on the naughty step.
yeah,
I'm just gonna keep sat there. It's easier than trying to get up and down again.
as long as you don't skip Phantasmic on your next trip, it'll all be good.
Oh well, we shall see. So that leaves us one thing left to do, which is to say we'll see you next month and
Waffle on.
Waffle on.
Waffle on!